going, people? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. This is episode number 11. My name is Brad.
My name's Miguel, guys.
And we have a super jam-packed show again tonight for you guys, or in the morning, whenever you're listening to this show. And speaking of that, we have an announcement. Our show is going to premiere at 8 p.m. on Mondays now instead of 11 a.m. I think that'll just kind of work out a little bit better for everybody's schedule. So yeah, 8 p.m., not 11 a.m. anymore. This episode that you're listening to obviously premiered at 11 a.m. today, but we will be back at 8 p.m. from now on. So Miguel, how you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good, my guy. It's been a busy day today, but
it has.
I mean, how's it been going for you?
Super busy week. It's been good. It's just been busy. I've been exhausted. We got kids back finally this week after all of the snowpocalypse and ice stuff, and this COVID stuff has been going on. But we finally got the kids back, and it's been a hoot. It's just been busy. But
what movie have you seen this week?
We watched Judas and the Black Messiah on HBO Max. It was phenomenal. It was fantastic. If you guys aren't familiar with Judas and the Black Messiah, you need to watch it. It's on HBO Max. I don't know if it's in the theaters right now. I'm not sure. It may be in HBO. It may just be on HBO, but I mean, it was fantastic. The way that story is told from beginning to end is fantastic. Are you familiar with what it is?
I figured it's something to do with the Black Panthers, right?
Yeah, it's about the Illinois Black Panther Party and what's his name? Fred Hampton, I believe is his name, who was their chairman. And basically it's about the police infiltrating his chapter of the party by they paid off a black man to give the police information, the FBI information about them, and it kind of led ultimately to their assassination. So it's phenomenal. I mean, it's really good. If especially for the times we're living in right now, it was a great movie. But also last weekend,
I need to check that out.
Yeah, you need to check it out. I watched Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, last weekend, just because I was working on stuff and I wanted something to put on in the background. They're a good. I'll tell you what, the Friday the 13th movies are good to have on in the background when I need something on. Something that I've seen a million times, and I can just have it on because why not? So,
guys, he likes to hear teenagers screaming, I guess, while he's planning for work.
What are you gonna do?
I guess.
But what do you watch?
What are you drinking today, right now? I've watched.
What?
Dang, you're already ahead of me. I'm only drinking water today, so I mean, it's your day.
I'm drinking some. I forget what it's called. I actually spilled it on my notebook, but it's an IPA from LA, so it's pretty good.
Oh, okay, I got you. Well, I just finished watching Eagle Eye with Shia LaBeouf.
That's a good movie.
Have you seen that?
Yep, it's been a while, but I've seen it.
Yeah. Rip Shia LaBeouf's career, rightfully so. He did some questionable things, but it's still a pretty solid movie. It's his first movie after Transformers, where he played like a college kid. This was like his first kind of serious performance, and I mean, he did a pretty decent job. And the other night, I saw Salvador. Have you heard of that movie?
I have not heard. What is that about?
It's basic. Well, guys, I'm from. I was born and raised in Rush, Kentucky, but my family's from El Salvador, and it was around the same time where they went through their civil war, and they made a movie over that. And let me tell you, it is the most hard thing to watch. I remember seeing it when I was little, and it still scars me to this day. So whenever I saw it playing on TV, I was like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna watch this. I'm not gonna finish the movie. I already know how it ends. I don't need to be reminded of it. So, but it's a pretty solid movie. It depicts almost the history of El Salvador Civil War pretty well. So, if you guys like, I guess movies about certain events, what's it called? Historical fiction movies. That's the right word. Just check that out. I'm a big fan of historical fictions. I think those are dope, because it presents a certain point in time of a certain area, but it just introduces a new story, like a new original story that people just want to see, but it
Absolutely.
also gives you information about certain events that happen around the world. So it's a dope movie if you like that kind of stuff. So I check it out, guys. It's an old one, like 1990 something. So now we call that old now. So
We do. Well, guys, we have, as I said, we have another jam-packed show. We had a ton of movie news come out this week. Some really interesting stories. I will say we're going to save the Marvel stuff till the end because there is a shitload of new Marvel news coming out.
mhm.
So we're going to save that until the end. But to go ahead and get us rolling, um, pretty cool. I was really happy to see this. The movie theaters in New York City and I believe in New York State are finally going to open under limited release. Governor Cuomo's given them the okay to operate at 25% capacity. Basically, one theater can have no more than 50 people in it, which I know
I
that's not a lot,
that's
but
not yeah,
I mean, you got to think it's better than what it was. You know what I mean? It's better than nothing. I mean, I know,
true.
I think in Canada, they're still completely locked down because of these new variants and stuff. I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
the movie theaters are even open in Canada. I doubt overseas because I know overseas they've been. I think in the UK they've been really fighting these new strains. So
There's a country, isn't there a country that's currently like COVID free? Is it Australia?
I don't know. I no, it's not
I think
Australia.
there's
I don't know who
well
it
there's
is,
some
but
I know there's some country. It's all over social media. They're like, yeah, while you guys over here suffering lockdown, I mean, we're out here still enjoying concerts. I'm like, I can't relate, man. Sorry. I never
yeah,
went to concerts anyways, but now at this point, I wouldn't mind going to one.
yeah. Well,
So what kind of news we got?
I'm just glad that they're starting to reopen and that hopefully that'll help the theater industry and the movie industry some kind of get back on track.
Mm,
But next, some kind of interesting, just something fun as hell. You remember playing Twisted Metal as a kid? I know Jeff and I used to play the hell out of that all the time.
no, I've never played Twisted Metal.
So, for those of you who have played Twisted Metal, this comes to us from Bloody Disgusting. The writers of Zombieland and Deadpool are turning Twisted Metal into a live action TV series, it sounds dope. Zombieland and Deadpool, I mean, if you're not familiar with Twisted Metal, it's basically a demo derby type game mixed with Mad Max. It's like Demolition Derby mixed with Mad Max. That's basically the gist of it. So basically the premise is the show is about a motor-mouthed outsider who is offered a chance at a better life, but only if he can successfully deliver a mysterious package across a post-apocalyptic wasteland. With the help of a trigger-happy car thief, he'll face salvage martyrs driving vehicles of destruction and other dangers of the open road, including a deranged clown who drives the ice cream truck, who fans of the game will know as Sweet Tooth. Sweet Tooth is a psycho.
Oh, now I know this movie because I remember seeing that. What's his name again?
Sweet Tooth.
Sweet Tooth. I remember seeing Sweet Tooth almost everywhere. Okay, now I know what this is. That's
Yeah,
gonna be a movie?
it's a fun game. It's gonna be a TV show, a TV series.
Oh, a TV show.
Yeah,
Who
be a
picked it
TV
up?
series. I'm not sure if anybody's officially picked it up yet, but yeah, it'll be fun. That'll be a fun one. I don't know if I'll really be interested in watching it. I just think it'll be. I don't know. It depends.
I'm excited to see how people react to it. Because not
Yeah.
many, I don't know, not many. I mean, I haven't played it, so I'm assuming not many people have played this. Because
Well,
I remember this being on like the original Xbox. You know what I mean?
yeah, it was an older game. I mean, I'm talking like
Mm-hmm.
early PS2, I believe, is when this was like really. You know what I mean? Like it was a
Yeah.
while ago. So that's going to be a fun one. But we have some pretty interesting Godzilla versus Kong news. And
Ooh, let's hear that.
I've been waiting to pick your brain about this for a couple days since I saw it. So this comes from Screen Rant. Godzilla vs. Kong's Mecha Titan is made from Ghidorah's head confirmed. A recent report from the set of Godzilla vs. Kong confirmed that a new version of Mecha King Ghidorah seems to be coming to the MonsterVerse. Now, I know watching the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer for the first time, and from everything we've heard, I've been pretty set in stone that we're going to see a Mecha Godzilla. That's been my train of thought since the day we first did that trailer reaction and watched it.
Yeah, because I mean, they pretty much just showed him coming out
Right,
of that mountain
they
or
pretty
whatever
much did.
explosion.
But then, of course, you read on in this article, Godzilla vs. Kong's mysterious Mecha Titan is confirmed to be tied to King Ghidorah's severed head, suggesting that a new version of Mecha Ghidorah is entering the MonsterVerse. The film's trailers have hinted at a cybernetic kaiju of some sort entering the fray, which many fans believe to be Mecha Godzilla. However, it seems that a different robotic monster from the Toho canon is making its way to Godzilla vs. Kong. With no new MonsterVerse films announced after Godzilla vs. Kong, many have wondered what the next primary foe or storyline will be, and the hints of a mecha titan of some sort tied to the mysterious Apex group have produced one of the more popular fan theories that Mecha Godzilla will enter the fray as the next significant threat. Now, you know, they read on to talk about the set visit. Collider confirmed that the existence of a Mecha Titan with King Ghidorah's head. We walked onto the set and there was a gigantic Ghidorah skull that had been wired up and made technological. Collider's Matt Goldberg wrote, "It's one of the cooler sets I've been on, and it looks like they took the organic matter of Ghidorah and mechanized it into some new kind of mechanized creature." I'm starting to wonder if it's going to be a Mecha Ghidorah and not Mecha Godzilla. What do you think?
I know. I think I mean, obviously, it has to be Mecha Godzilla because the toys are already out. Like, that was not supposed to be leaked. That was not supposed to be
Wasn't
shown
supposed
yet.
to be out.
And yeah, it wasn't supposed to be out. So I'm pretty sure it's official. It's gonna be Mecha Godzilla. But I think that I think Mecha Godzilla is just the tip of the iceberg of what Apex is doing, because it sounds like Apex is now the big bad of the movie. You know what I mean? Like, that's a big bad group.
Yeah.
So I can almost see Mecha Godzilla being in Godzilla vs. Kong, and then later on they create Mecha King Ghidorah.
Right.
Which would be absolutely dope.
I kind of get the vibe that this Apex group that we know nothing about, other than they're probably going to have something to do with the Mecha Titans. I would say
exactly.
They're probably not going to come into the forefront of the film until probably like the third act. I think that's pretty safe to say. And I really don't think we're going to see, if it really is Mecha Godzilla, I don't think we're going to see him until the third act. I think you might get glimpses. I think you might, it's obviously going to build up the fact that, you know, something's wrong. You know, there's a mecha, there's something coming besides Godzilla and Kong going at it. But I just thought that was really interesting. I wonder if, you know, maybe they do have plans for you know, for a film after Godzilla versus Kong, where it, you know, Mecha King Ghidorah is going to be the next big bad. I don't know.
I think it's a good possibility. I just realized that because that they haven't announced any new Godzilla movies or MonsterVerse movies for that matter.
No, they haven't. This is
because
as far as we know, this is the last one.
Because Godzilla vs. Kong was announced like as King of the Monsters was coming out.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, hey, just let you know, like.
What were you gonna say?
I was like at this point, like, I don't know what's going to be happening, because if they were smart, they would end up wanting to announce another one just so they know that they got more to look forward to. But it kind of makes sense because they want us to feel like one of them, like King Kong or Godzilla, is going to die. And honestly, now that I keep thinking about it, with the whole Apex coming into the forefront, I honestly think one of them may be not killed, but extremely hurt.
Right.
And they'll be out of the picture for a while. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
And I think it might be Godzilla.
I wonder if G is really going to end up that hurt. Here's the thing. Just like we talked about a few weeks ago, I don't think that this is going to be the final MonsterVerse movie, because it's making buku money. I mean, you know, look at even what the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer did. in its opening day. I mean,
Yeah.
they
People are
know
low
that
key
people are going to
excited
pay
about
to
it.
see this. Yeah.
Hmm.
And again, it's about making money. Yes, they love the property. Yes, they love the fans, but they're going to make their money. That's their goal.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
it's a business. So I don't think this is going to be the last one. I think they are going to continue to make these, and I think they're going to have to kind of reinvent the wheel a little bit and switch around their formula. I don't. I think the film of Godzilla getting knocked down in the beginning and then coming back at the end, I think they need to change that a little bit. And I think with Godzilla versus Kong, they have an opportunity for Kong to kind of be in the forefront for a little bit if Godzilla really ends up hurt. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And
Yeah,
then
I know what you mean.
maybe the next film is Godzilla's redemption arc. You know what I mean? So
I
I'm
would
still
like to see
holding
that.
out. I'm still holding out. I hope that Kong and G both put the smackdown on whatever mecha or whatever big villain we get at the end of this. So
I think they're gonna get their ass smacked by it. I want to say you say it's gonna happen in the third act. I think it may happen in the second
mm,
act when they fight, and like this new mecha creature is gonna just absolutely lay the smackdown on both Godzilla versus Kong,
right.
and one of them is gonna get hurt. So that's pretty much the way I see it. I'm just basing that off of how how the formula worked in the other like series of Godzilla and the whole franchise for that matter, because they all follow the same formula pretty much. So I'm wondering if they're either going to follow that same formula or take a completely different route, because they pretty much have taken a different route to some degree, because Legendary has already changed so much of what is already canon with Godzilla. Like
Yeah.
the Oxygen Destroyer was introduced. Like
Yep.
I did not expect the Oxygen Destroyer to be introduced in that movie. I know they laid leaks,
I
but
remember
I
you
didn't know
being
that was
really
going to be
shocked when
introduced.
that happened.
Yeah, because that movie right there, that bomb right there is pretty much, it plants a seed for 3 other movies to come out in that franchise. So I'm
Right.
curious to see what they're going to do with it. But they may be doing like some little Marvel thing, because obviously they pioneered the whole Easter egg moving to a universe thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they probably just planted that there so that for future movies they can be like, they could do a callback. Like, hey, remember when they launched this missile? Well, guess what? This is happening now, and this
Absolutely.
is the reason why. So I'm continuously excited, and I'm so glad this is become a trending this like the Godzilla franchise has become trending again, because
Yeah.
it died out for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think since 2000, I think it was 2004 or 5. That was like the final movie, and then 2014, like literally about 10 years later, they're like, "Hey, he's back in the spotlight," and everyone is psyched to see it.
Right. Well, and then the other kind of half of this that I found really interesting, again, coming to us from Comic Book, you guys are great over all of you, comicbook.com. Alex Garcia, who is a producer for the film, um,
Hmm.
in an interview, he was talking, and he said the movie opens on Skull Island, which has changed a lot in the 40-something years since we last saw it in Kong. When the movie first opens, we are witnessing the beginning of a really massive event, a massive mission that is being undertaken to stem this global threat. So I get the sense, even from that little beginning tidbit of his interview, something is already going to be wrong at the beginning of the
Hmm.
movie from the get-go. I don't think everything is going to be fine exactly how we left it at the end of King of the Monsters. I think something is going to be wrong from the very get-go. Um,
I mean,
and it's
something's already been wrong.
right.
Whenever King Ghidorah like made his call and awoken all of them up, like I mean, all the monsters are awake now at this point.
Yeah,
So I mean, the world's gonna have to face that now, and they pretty much said that in King of the Monster. They said, "Hey, look, these Titans are coming back, and we got to figure out a way to coexist with them." And now
yeah,
look at it. There's every single region's gonna have a different Titan.
yep. And Kong
So
ignored the hell out of him.
he really did.
He said,
I
"Don't
don't know
y'all
what it
wake me up,
is.
man.
I
Don't
think
y'all
I
wake me
think
up."
Skull Island. I think Skull Island is like a dead zone. You know what I mean? Like
Maybe
there's
he
no
does,
reception
he
there.
doesn't get cell service there.
No,
He
not
had
at
no
all.
idea. But the producer goes on to say, we see that there are many titans in the world, and Godzilla has been reinstated as the apex predator, and he's maintaining that balance. But as we come into this movie, Godzilla has been acting erratically for the last few months. Like you said in that trailer reaction, he's acting berserk. Like he's doing things, and even his movements and his personality, you could even say. His nature, he looks different, he's acting different, he's acting berserk, he's irrational, and he says, he's been attacking certain cities, facilities. Madison Russell, who is Millie Bobby Brown's character, she's really the advocate for Godzilla in this film. She spends the entirety of the film trying to vindicate Godzilla. She believes with all her heart that for a lot of personal reasons, that there must be a reason Godzilla is doing what she's doing. Or no, I'm sorry. That I'm messing up.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
That for a lot of personal and emotional reasons, that there must be a reason Godzilla is doing what she's doing. She believes that while he's not benevolent to us, that what he wants is good for all mankind, and that there must be some reason he's doing this. So yes. I don't know. It makes me question the plot. It makes me kind of curious a little bit more than I was before, because I think there's going to be something a little bit deeper going on than, well, suddenly Kong is in the forefront and Godzilla's like, who the hell are you? I'm not about this. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be something way, 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 way deeper than just the fact that Godzilla and Kong have a rivalry. Now, when Skarsgård says, there was a war, I think there is going to be some subtext there between Godzilla and Kong. I think the two of them have history. But I don't think that's going to be the sole thing that makes them fight. If that makes sense.
No, it's not. I think it's like I'm almost certain the way it's going to go is pretty much, Apex is creating this new mechanized Titan, and Godzilla is aware of this, and that throws everything off balance. So he's currently facing mankind as the enemy now. So he's like, I need to put a stop to this. So it makes him seem he makes him seem like the villain, but mankind is messing up the balance of the world because they're creating these mechanized titans.
Right.
So people, the Kong advocates, I guess is the right way to say it, they are realizing Godzilla may just be going berserk. So they're realizing like, hey, we need someone else to bring balance, and it's Kong. So Kong is literally just like, just chilling Skull Island, and they're knocking on his door like, hey, you got to help us.
They're recruiting him.
Yeah, like Kong's like, nah, I really don't want to. Because you can see on the boat that this man was terrified. He was like, why'd you guys take me out of my island?
Yeah.
Why'd you put me in the boat?
He's terrified, but he's also pissed at the same time. Like, what are you doing to me? But so yeah, those are two things that it really threw a wrench in my chain of how I've perceived this movie and my thoughts and my expectations. I think it's going to go a whole lot deeper than I was originally expecting. So again, I am beyond excited for this film.
Same.
So,
and we only got to wait a couple of weeks,
we don't have much. It's going to be this month soon. I mean, we're at the end of February, but we're right around the corner. So, all right, moving on. Real quick, I thought this was pretty cool. The Punisher and Jessica Jones. Those two characters have finally made their way back to Disney and Marvel. Their contract with or not contract, but the rights issue, resolved. Yeah. The rights have reverted back to Marvel and to Disney from Netflix. So technically, Marvel could use Jon Bernthal and the actress who played Jessica Jones in the MCU if they wanted to. Which I'm going to be straight up. I think Jon Bernthal was a killer Punisher. He was great.
Yes. Very much, and so was Charlie Cox with Daredevil. Which there's news that Charlie Cox is in Spider-Man. What's it called now?
No Way Home.
No Way Home. Yeah, there you go, guys.
We're getting ready to talk about that in a minute. But I think those characters are great, and I don't know. I really hope that they get them back in the forefront. I've always said I would love to see the Punisher in the MCU. I would love to.
Yeah, absolutely, because he he plays a pretty prominent role in the comic book world, to be honest.
Yeah, and
And
I've always loved that character and that story, you know?
he's the only one that's honestly willing to kill anything at this point for
Right, but
justice.
and you know, there's a lot of people that have argued, you know, could Disney really do the Punisher justice though? Because you know they've said after Deadpool 3 they won't make any more rated R movies. But I think they could do something with the Punisher. You can make the Punisher PG-13 and still get away with a whole lot. You know what I mean?
If that's the case, then I'm kind of scared for Blade, because
Well,
that's a pretty dark.
that was a big deal over the last few days. They said Blade will be PG-13, that it will not be rated R.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
I know that's a little disappointing. I would like to see Blade in that rated R mindset. You know, here's the thing. I think Disney can do it. I mean, I know it's Disney,
Hmm.
and I know they're trying to appeal to a certain audience with the MCU. They're doing something then different than DC is doing with Joker and with the Snyder Cut. But I don't know. I think there's a place for rated R films in the MCU. I think if you broadcast that and you target that towards the right audience, you can do Deadpool 3 and make it rated R. You can do Blade and make it rated R. You can do
Hmm.
The Punisher and make it rated R. I don't think they have to keep playing in that same wheelhouse anymore. You know, even WandaVision is a little bit darker, especially now. And the
Yeah, but
direction
it's
that they're
still.
moving, I think they can move in a little bit of a darker direction and still keep their main identity.
Hmm. I agree, and honestly, I think Disney and Marvel should do that because I mean they are Disney basically rebuilt Marvel because I mean you know the reason why so many studios have all of the rights to so many of these characters
Yeah,
is because Marvel went bankrupt and they
they
just
sold
sold their
them.
rights.
Yeah,
And when the MCU came out, they realized it's being revitalized, so they're trying to get these rights back, and these studios are like, nah, fam, you sold it to us, so it's ours.
yeah,
So so like now that they're gaining all of their characters back, like they have to come up with some, and they
right.
can't stay in the same uh, I guess PG-ish kind of movies, even though some of them are kind of like obviously when they chopped off Thanos' head, spoiler alert, like that was a pretty like
Yeah.
dark thing to do, but they still did it. So I mean they're capable of
Well,
doing it,
and
doing
you know,
stuff
I mean,
dark like that.
you know, they had originally written in the script that at the end of Endgame and the climactic fight scene, Thanos was going to throw Cap's decapitated head at Tony and at the rest of the Avengers before they fought. I mean, could you imagine if that would have happened? You know what I mean?
We would have got a lot of screams instead of Cap lifting Mjolnir.
It would have been a little
Yeah.
nuts. But
Yeah.
so, nonetheless, I'm glad they're coming back. There was also a rumor a few days ago that J Law, Jennifer Lawrence, would be playing the Invisible Woman, Sue Storm, in the Fantastic Four movie, which was quickly shut down by
Yeah.
Justin Kroll, who is a Deadline film reporter. He tweeted out a few days ago, all I'm going to say is this: Marvel just started meeting with writers for Fantastic Four. There is no script, and it will be a while before this film starts shooting. So I think what Mr. Kroll is trying to say in that tweet is that they don't have a cast yet. I think they don't even have a script developed. So I think it would be pretty tough to try to cast a role when you don't even have a script ready. You know what I
See,
mean?
that kind of bums me out because you know they're teasing like someone to come in with WandaVision. And you
Yeah,
remember how
I've heard
what's her name?
rumblings of that. Yeah,
Yeah, like it was supposed to be Reed Richards, and I really want it to be Reed Richards, and I really want it to be John Krasinski. Like that's the biggest fan cast ever. Like John Krasinski and Emily Blunt
yeah.
as Sue Storm. Like that would be dope, and they can do it, obviously. But man, I swear that's gonna be the biggest disappointment.
I don't know.
Honestly, like if they don't end up casting those two, like it's gonna be a disappointment.
I've still been in the mindset that they need to get John Krasinski and Emily Blunt to play that role. I think they would be perfect. You know, Jennifer Lawrence would be
Hmm.
great. she's great. She's a phenomenal actress. I've always
Mhm.
had a huge respect for her. Um, she was great in the Hunger Games. She was great in that what was that movie with Chris Pratt, the space movie where they're stuck in space? Passengers.
Passengers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a fantastic movie. I think she's a great actress. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I don't know. It they're gonna cast somebody great. I mean, no matter what they do with that, I've been waiting for the Fantastic Four to make their MCU debut for a long time. So I'm pretty hyped
Exactly, because
that they're going to.
yeah, the Fantastic Four too has also had some pretty. They went through a rough patch, so
They
let's hope
did.
they can do
I
a good job.
I actually really enjoyed what was it? What was it? 2004 or 2005 with
The one
Jessica
with Chris
Alba and
Evans.
Michael
Yeah.
Chiklis, Chris Evans. Yeah, I enjoyed those
Hmm.
two films. And then the new one came out, and it was like, oh shit, what is that? Like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
That was a terrible.
Wasn't the
I
best.
must say, I remember probably just before COVID started. I remember my dad and I watched that Fantastic Four movie, and I just remember looking at him like halfway through and being like, "This is dog shit." Like everything from the script to the actors are fine. I really don't have a problem with who they cast in those roles, but the CGI, the storyline, at the end when they're fighting um,
Doom.
Doom, for some reason, like if you really stop and look at some of the CGI effects when they're fighting Doctor Doom, it looks
It sucks.
terrible.
Yeah.
Like it really looks B movie-ish. And that's pretty crazy to say for a Marvel film. And I know it's not the Disney Marvel film, but you're talking about
I mean,
Victor Von
every.
Doom, man. I mean, this is a major villain. And his fight looked like something that you did in iMovie. It didn't. I don't know. It didn't look good. It's like the stuff that I edit our mediocre crap in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But we can talk more about that because that's later. I have that movie later on the topic as we talk.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Um,
Hmm.
but we also learned Loki is dropping June 11th, which is going to be dope. I'm excited. I'm
Hmm.
super excited for what they do with Loki. That's one that
I'm.
really intrigues me because, WandaVision, we kind of know where it's moving. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that's going to explore Zemo. That's going to explore their relationship and kind of post Cap and them trying to fill that role. But Loki, I feel like the possibilities are endless of what you can do with Loki. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's not the Loki that we grew up with. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
the
It's a
other
different
Loki.
version because of him
Hmm.
leaving an Endgame. So I thought
He
that
didn't
was
go
really
through all that
interesting.
character development. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But again, coming from comicbook.com, Aaron Couch, who was at the Hollywood Reporters TCA presentation, um, he tweeted out Kevin Feige is on the set of Ms. Marvel currently. They will start She Hulk in a few weeks and Moon Knight not too long after that. So Disney is wasting no time getting these shows filmed. I mean, they
Yeah.
are cruising along with these Disney Plus shows, and I think the thing about Marvel is they are 10 steps ahead of whatever movie or TV show you're watching. You know what I mean? You think
Yes.
you know what's going on, and you have no idea because they're that far ahead of you, and that's their strongest thing. That's what they do the best, is that they already know what's coming ahead of where they are, you know?
Hmm. Which honestly, that got me a little scared for them because I always knew that they're really good at planning ahead. But when COVID hit, I'm sure it threw a wrench in their
Oh
plans.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like they're
yeah.
probably like, we got to push all this stuff back because I mean, this was supposed to happen around this time, but now with COVID, we had to push a lot of things back. But it seems like they were able to get themselves back on track, so to speak.
Right.
So like I'm sure a lot of the initial plans
Hmm.
fell through because what's also important about making sure the storyline fits is making sure the contracts fit. You know what I mean? Because sometimes the
Absolutely.
contracts
Yeah,
have deadlines
absolutely.
and then scheduling, like it goes
Hmm.
out the window. So
Well,
I'm
and even thinking back to what we learned a year ago, what we knew a year ago about this Spider-Man film, which versus what we know now. I,
mhm,
there was a leak script from a year ago, and I didn't, not a leak script, but a leak, a plot leak that originally
mhm.
I think had Craven and Daredevil and a couple of other characters. I mean, if it wouldn't have been for COVID and all of this time, who knows what they changed and what they threw in there, saying like, "Oh, well, we were gonna do this, but what if we do this instead?" You know what I mean?
Exactly.
What
Hmm.
maybe COVID was a little bit of a blessing in disguise in that way, and that they could kind of change their plans a little bit. Maybe we wouldn't have gotten the Spider Verse as early. I know that's not confirmed, but I mean,
Let's
let's
be
be real
honest.
here.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Tom Holland can sit there and say that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield aren't in this movie.
They
Everyone
are.
and their moms, I don't even know, have confirmed that this is going to be a Spider Verse movie. I mean,
Yep.
everything about, I don't know. I'm not even going to get into that. But yeah, who knows what they came up with in this time period. But the thing that really struck me about this article talking about these new Marvel TV shows, this is what Kevin Feige had to say. Well, we're looking a little differently. We're looking at it as developing them as either 6-hour episodes or 9, 10-hour or 10 half-hour episodes. He revealed to Collider early this year when talking about She-Hulk and Moon Knight. Um, he said, so for instance, WandaVision started that way, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier will be 30-minute episodes because it's streaming on Disney Plus, and the rules have been blurred over the years. Some can be 23 minutes, some can be much longer than that, but She-Hulk, for instance, is being developed as 10 30-minute episodes. Some will be longer and some will be shorter. Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier are being developed as 6 40 to 50-minute episodes. So that's kind of interesting too, is I think they're going to take some time to really build the world in Loki, knowing
Hmm.
that they're all going to be larger episodes versus WandaVision, where they're kind of blue balling you a little bit. They're giving you like a little bit at a time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I swear to God, WandaVision literally nailed it whenever they do
They
that
really did.
fucking what's it called? Or it's like it cuts off and they're like, please stand by.
Yeah,
My God, it pisses me off every single
I
time when I
know.
see that. I'm like, you
Well, and it's always at a spot where you're not expecting it. Like you're
exactly.
expecting a little bit more, and then it just cuts off, and you're like,
Yep.
"Come on," you know.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
so yeah, I thought that was really really interesting. Um, this is one. It kind of hurts me a little bit because I've always been somebody, even as a kid, that really looked up to Stan Lee a
Hmm.
whole lot. Stan Lee is one of those figures in my life that I can honestly say, as early as I can remember, Stan Lee has been a huge part of my life. And it goes way before I'm wearing my More Than a Fan MCU shirt. It goes beyond the MCU for me.
Hmm.
And there was an IGN article. There's a new Stan Lee biography coming out, and supposedly it reveals a little bit of a darker side of him than I think many people knew. So
Okay.
here's what the IGN article had to say. Stan Lee is arguably the most famous figure in the history of comics. That's not to say his career was free from controversy. For decades, he was dogged by allegations that he took too much credit for work he created with others and shared too little of the spotlight. For most of his long career, however, Stan Lee's superpower was the ability to avoid taking too many hits to his own reputation. That will likely change with the release of the new book, True Believer: The Rise and Fall of Stan Lee by Abraham Reisman. I believe I'm saying that right. Reisman. Forgive me if I'm saying wrong. Abraham Reisman, if you're listening. It offers an illuminating and often harsh look at the life of this American icon who died in 2018 at the age of 95 and calls into question many of the key elements of his legacy.
That's going to be interesting to see.
That's a book I would like
Okay,
to read.
look, honestly, like, I mean, we're not going to sit here and like say Stan Lee was an absolute saint. Like, we're not going to. I mean, I'm not
No,
admitting that at
because
all.
nobody is.
Exactly. Like, if he built like an entire empire filled with all of these great heroes and stories, obviously that's going to have some um dirty stories. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
it's already known that Marvel and DC pretty much copy off from each other left and right. So I mean, it's just the way it is. And I don't think is so it's gonna be a book, right?
Yes, it's a book. It's a
Okay.
biography about Stan Lee, but it's it's presenting him in a new light that many people probably never got the chance to see
Mm-hmm.
because they saw the Stan Lee in the cameos and in the interviews and at the Comic Cons and the conventions, things like that. I I mean I haven't read it. I read this article, and again, this article is on IGN. If any of you want to read it, I can post a link down below. But yeah, I don't know. I have heard that Stan was, he really viewed these characters as his own,
Mm-hmm.
and that he was, very reluctant to, share the spotlight with anybody, which I get to an extent. You
Mm-hmm.
you take your life to do this, so I get that, but I also understand anyone coming forward that feels like they're owed
They've been wronged, or yeah.
that they've been robbed a little bit of some of the spotlight, or whether it's spotlight or money or credit,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I understand that, and I would be very interested to read this book and to try to see, I don't know, to try to see a different side of Stan and to kind of dive deeper into that story.
Yeah, I would like to see more about it because I mean, like you said, all we've seen was the cameos, the interviews, him in the direct spotlight when the spotlight's on him.
Yes,
But when it's
yes,
off him, I'm sure it's gonna be interesting when the cameras are off and all that stuff. When all the interviews are said and done, like who is Stan Lee when he was working? Like
right,
like when he was like in his
right,
bag
right,
doing it,
right.
creating all of this. So it'd be
Yeah,
interesting to read. I'll definitely buy the book.
yeah. And the first thing that came to my mind when I read that article was, is this going to change the way I view him? If I read this book, am I going to not think of him as the icon that he was in my own life? I don't think it
It
would.
could, it could to some people, but I mean, I already knew like all of these, all the people that I kind of idolize, all the famous top A
Yeah.
list people. Like, I mean, I always know like, hey, you have some shadows, you have some skeletons in the closet. It's almost certain. Like,
Mhm.
you're not this perfect on a pedestal kind of person. So like, I'm almost certain, and also that's what makes them more interesting.
Right.
So like, I'll probably read this book and I'll have probably even more respect for Stanley knowing more
Absolutely.
information about him. So
Yeah. And I mean, you look at any icon. I mean, look at Walt Disney. I mean, people like that.
yeah,
That
exactly.
nobody. They all have their demons. They're not
Hmm.
perfect. I would be curious to learn more. It
Same.
piqued my interest, so I wanted to briefly bring that up. Now we're getting to the end of our Marvel news. Spider-Man: No Way Home, that was released yesterday. We learned the title. We're filming this Friday night as of right now, so it was yesterday when the title was dropped by Tom Holland. And I went back and I studied that board in the
Yeah, I did
video,
too.
the whiteboard, to try to see if there was anything that was
Yep.
like important, or that related to multiverse or anything. But I couldn't really see
Mhm.
anything. I did see that Homeworld was on there. That was the one thing that I thought, Homeworld was on the board. So I feel like, again, they can try to play us, but they're not really playing us.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly. Yep,
So
pretty
I don't know,
much.
and that might sound that's very. I'm sure that's very forthcoming of me, but um,
There was one picture that I saw like on social media. It showed the scene where Agatha was talking about like taking care of children and how she doesn't do well with children.
Uh-huh.
and she said that she once bit a kid. So like I don't know, they pretty much made the theory that Agatha pretty much shapeshifted herself into a spider and bit Tom Holland, Peter Parker. How do you think about that? Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's a stupid theory, but
It's
it's
stupid, but it kind
it
of makes
has
me like sick to my stomach at the
it
same
has
time.
salt. Yeah, exactly. Like you know how shitty that would be because
Ugh.
we never got a origin story from Peter. So I mean,
Right.
I'm pretty sure they'll have to hint it at some point. Like it
Yeah.
has to come out, and that would be absolutely hilarious if it was
Well,
actually Agatha.
I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of pissed that we didn't get an origin story for Spider-Man this go around.
hmm
But looking back on it, we didn't really need it.
No, we really didn't.
I don't think we really needed it. It
Mhm.
didn't change anything for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Nothing really changed.
because we've already seen it plenty of times. It's the
Right.
same thing as like, oh, we don't need to see
You don't need to see Uncle Ben shot in the chest again. Like you just don't. You don't need to see it again.
exactly. Like that's
It's not
not
worth it.
necessary anymore. And
Yeah.
also, whenever we introduced Tony, whenever they like started out with like Tony and Peter, it basically created like our version of Uncle Ben because I mean that's pretty much what Tony was to Peter, like his other uncle.
Oh
Even though
yeah.
he did lose his uncle, but that was like his next father figure. So I mean that was something this generation of moviegoer or MCU fans can experience. So that's pretty interesting.
Absolutely.
So it would be hilarious to know that if Agatha was the one that turned
Yeah.
into a spider and bit him.
I've seen where, the Marvel execs have said that, because people have asked, when's WandaVision season 2 dropping?
That's not happening.
And, the Marvel execs were like, there is no Marvel season or WandaVision season 2. Like, why? And people are pissed. People are pissed that there's not going to be a WandaVision season 2. But here's the thing. It wouldn't make sense. If this is really the multiverse trilogy, as they're calling it, WandaVision, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, if this is really going to be the multiverse trilogy, why
It's
the
gonna
hell would there be another sequel to WandaVision? That wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You've told the story already. And
Mhm.
whatever story you don't tell, you're going to tell in Spider-Man No Way Home and in the Multiverse of Madness. There's no reason to continue WandaVision. I think it would be weird if they did another season of WandaVision.
It wouldn't make sense because I mean, it's already solidified that her reality that she created in the series, it's falling apart.
Yeah.
And I can't see a situation where she would make another
Yeah,
universe
I don't think,
or like try to expand it because there's nothing to expand on.
and especially I don't understand. I know it's fandom. I know people get crazy in fandom, but I don't understand. I do too. I don't understand why we're not even finished with season 1. We don't even know the extent of the last 2 episodes of WandaVision.
Mhm.
Why would I want to know what's happening right now. You know what I mean? I'm not wanting another season. I want to know what's going on right now.
Exactly.
I want to know how this thing is going to end because Agatha, I mean, I'm not going to, everybody, when she said I'm Agatha and they revealed her to be this demonic witch thing, everyone was like,
Who?
What?
Who?
What? Not Mephisto? Not who? You know what I mean? Not Nightmare?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I mean, who knows? Who knows what it's going to be? So I'm curious. But last, real quick, before we move on to our main topic tonight, Tom Holland was being interviewed. Again, this was on USA Today. I saw this. And his contract is over after this film. So once this film is finished, Tom Holland's contract is over. Now, that doesn't mean that Disney can't recontract him for more films. And I would say
Exactly.
they're going to recontract him for more films.
Yeah.
But he was asked, what are you going to do post Spider-Man No Way Home? And he said, I'm very lucky that I look young and I can continue to play the 17-year-old web slinger. And I will do that for as long as they will have me. If they want me to make 10 Spider-Man movies, you better believe I will be there.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's not an if, but a when they're going to revive his contract again.
Yeah,
They're gonna
exactly.
make more Spider-Man movies. And when we did our Spider-Verse episode, there was a rumor a couple months ago that they're planning on doing at least 2 more Spider-Man and Venom trilogies. That will be like a Spider-Man Venom crossover where you get the high school years, the college years, and then the later on adult years. Which, if you're going to do that correctly, you would need Tom Holland to do that.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
and here's the thing with Sony now, which he also went on to kind of clarify that Marvel and Sony are in a good place right now. They were really battling out over their characters, but
Mommy and Daddy stopped fighting for a second.
yeah, like they actually, I think Marvel and Sony are in a good place. And Tom Holland kind of clarified that in saying that they're fine. Like nobody needs to worry about them fighting over rights or fighting over characters anymore. I think whatever deal they struck prior to No Way Home, I think is going to continue. And I do believe that we're going to start seeing the Venom world and this Spider-Man world crossover. And it won't surprise me if, what we talked about in episode 2 is correct, and that they go back and they finish out Andrew Garfield's trilogy and Tobey Maguire's story.
Yeah. And I think that's
which would be awesome. I would love to see that.
I wouldn't want to see a movie, but I'd much rather see their story end in one of the
I'm talking
Spider-Man
a movie.
or Doctor Strange.
I'm talking a movie. If they did another Amazing Spider-Man, and if they did a Spider-Man 4.
I don't know. I don't think it would hit.
Yeah, I think at first the idea, I was like, well, hell yeah, I want to see more. But I think they can end it. I think they can find a way to end it in this final Spider-Man film without having to go back and tell
Without taking. Yeah, exactly. And I think with Spider-Man, what is it again?
No Way Home.
No Way Home.
You really can't remember this damn name.
I really can't. No. With this movie coming out and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, I think that would be a good way to end their stories to a certain degree. Because, I mean, we don't need to see another Tobey Maguire movie. We don't need to see another Andrew Garfield movie.
We don't.
So, no need to beat that dead horse.
Well, and that's another interesting thought is, obviously, I don't know. I know it's not confirmed, and I know that it's being denied by everybody, which it would be a huge, 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 huge secret. But I think Tobey Maguire, and I really think this is going to be the MCU Spider-Verse. I really, in my heart of hearts, do. Do you think we could see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in the Multiverse of Madness? Or is this going to be just in No Way Home? Because if those other reports and those plot leaks were true, which I'm, obviously spoiler-free show right now, but if those plot leaks were true, and Spider-Man Far From Home, or not Far From Home, No Way Home, see, I'm doing this shit too.
Yeah.
If No Way Home ends dark, and it doesn't end well for our protagonists, as the middle act of a 3-act play usually does not. Look at the Return of the Jedi. Halloween Kills is going to be the darkest. I think we could see them return in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah. And I could totally see that too. You also said Return of the Jedi was a 3rd act. I think that was a 3rd act. That wasn't the middle.
Oh, what was
Empire? It was Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes, whatever.
Yeah.
Empire
by the way,
Strikes
guys, we're gonna do a Star Wars episode too. I gotta get him up to date as well.
I misspoke. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm getting him up to date on Halloween. He's gonna get me up to date on Star Wars, which I've seen all the Star Wars films. I'm not as well versed in the lore as most Star Wars people are. I'm the guy that would piss hardcore Star Wars fans off because I'm not as well versed.
Very much, because you almost said Star Force, my guy.
I didn't say Star Force.
You almost did. You almost said Star Force. I was about to correct you right there, my guy.
But all right, let's move on to our main topic of the evening. We are talking box office flops. Now, a couple of reasons box office or films flop at the box office. You got a poor script. You got a
Yep.
poor execution of that script.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about Fantastic Four a little bit ago. The actors that were cast did a decent job with the script they were given.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think the script that they had. It's got to be hard as an actor knowing how terrible your script is and having to just act through that.
I
You know
I
what I
don't.
mean?
So my opinion as to there's many factors to where a movie can flop. One of which is the script, but I think that comes later on when the movie drops. I think when they're doing the movie, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're on the assumption that this script's great. Otherwise, they wouldn't
I
have
I kind of disagree on that.
to a certain degree because obviously when it came to Fantastic Four, there were a lot of reshoots
There were.
because the script was just so tattered and they just needed to get the job done. But they were under the assumption that, hey, if we fix this, then it'll be better. And as it shows in the past, like when you hear about a movie going through reshoots, you can almost guarantee that something is going bad and it's not gonna do well. So scripts do cause flops, but I think it's like after the fact.
Yeah.
And I think the other one is timing. Because there's a lot of movies that come out when there's a lot of movies coming out, throughout the year, and they have them scheduled. But sometimes some of these studios pick really bad time to drop these movies.
Right.
So like for some of these that I mentioned, like the movies that flopped, they were up against blockbusters, like hits that we know, like they smashed at the box office, and that was probably the reason why it flopped, is because it just got overshadowed by these other movies.
Well,
That's
and if
another
you
reason why movies flop.
if you look at Godzilla versus Kong, I think what Warner Brothers did with Godzilla versus Kong was genius. They
Mm-hmm.
moved it up. All of these movies they're getting scared. The studios are scared
Mm-hmm.
of the possibility that that COVID is going to screw up their release. So they keep pushing them back. And Godzilla versus Kong pushed forward to kind of fill that void. Morbius has moved back. It's rumored that Venom, Let There Be Carnage, will be pushing back to October. And there's also been rumblings that Halloween Kills is either going to move up to late September, early October, or push back until a couple days prior to Halloween, maybe 27th, 28th, 29th, somewhere in there. Because October is getting, I don't know why these studios are picking October 2021, but that is the month, man. They are all pushing them to October. And I don't know, maybe that's when their business models are telling them that the theaters are going to be back open. But it's a competitive market between studios, and you have to remember that these studios they're not collaborating. They're not like, oh well, we'll give you guys November. Warner Brothers isn't looking at Legendary and saying, well, not Legendary, they own Legendary, but Warner Brothers isn't looking at Paramount and saying, oh, that's okay. You guys take September. You take July. No, they are fighting over spots. It's a competitive market, and that even goes back into marketing or lack thereof marketing. We waited forever for Godzilla versus Kong's marketing campaign to start, but now that we have a solidified release date where Godzilla versus Kong will release, whether it's on HBO Max, whether it's in theaters, however you choose to go see it, now that we have a solidified release date, their marketing campaign is off to the races. And, if you look at a marketing campaign, I think for Halloween 2018, we got a poster April, somewhere in there, and we got a trailer in June.
Okay, yeah.
We got a poster in May, trailer in June. I know that the trailer came out in June because I remember the day the trailer dropped. But that's about 6 months. I think that's pretty safe 6
Mhm.
months before the movie begins to start your marketing campaign. And of course, that's when, your poster drops, your trailer drops. Then you're getting your TV spots closer to. You're getting you're starting to ramp up a little bit. You're getting, not only TV spots, but your toys are starting to release. Your posters are starting to release. Your merchandise is releasing. So all of that, plays into whether or not people are going to go see your film.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, I agree, and it's all about timing. And sometimes some of these movies just don't really hit the nail whenever they drop it. And
absolutely.
for instance, let me see. Take Green Lantern. Even though that was a terrible
Yes,
script, like it's dead set that that was a bad
that's a
script.
god awful movie right there.
That came out that came out with when Captain America and Thor came out.
Terrible
So
timing.
terrible timing. So
Terrible timing.
obviously Green Lantern, DC was anticipating that to be like the Kickstarter for the DC universe. But since they did it during the time of Captain America, the first Avenger, and the first Thor, that got overshadowed because Marvel was already having momentum. They already had a solidified fan base. People were already dead set going to go see it. So whenever Green Lantern came out, people just didn't want to go see it, and those who did found it pretty lackluster because the script was pretty bad for what it was, and plus the CGI wasn't all that well, which
Let's be
can be
real, the
another
script was
factor.
pretty bad.
It really was.
It
If
was
it's
not, I was not impressed with that movie at all.
No, not really, and it didn't really set anything up, to be honest.
No, it didn't. It was just like a one off, whatever.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and then you have films like that just don't meet expectations. Look at Hellboy from a few years ago, the Hellboy remake. I didn't
Yeah,
even go see it. It didn't, and I loved the Hellboy movies with Ron Perlman. I
yeah,
loved them. I thought they were fantastic. But the
with the
new
one with
one,
Guillermo del Toro,
yes, I
who's
thought he did a
again,
really great job.
hmm
But the new one, it didn't interest me at all. I had no desire to go see that movie. And
honestly,
again, that's another getting into marketing. It's getting into how is it being presented. If you look at ticket sales and word of mouth, if you have a killer movie, people are going to talk about it.
hmm
People are going to get on Facebook. They're going to hop on Twitter. They're going to hop on Instagram. And they're going to say, you need to go check this movie out. It's fantastic. You got to go watch it. But if it sucks, and it's kind of funny how this works because usually if a movie sucks, it travels far more by word of mouth than if it's great. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, my parents were just telling me today about they watched Rock of Ages for the first time.
Geez, I forgot about that movie. Yeah.
I never saw it, and they said it was dog shit. That it was terrible. And again, word of mouth. I know that came out a few years ago, but
Hmm.
word of mouth. If there's a movie that is terrible, we do it with our group of friends.
Hmm.
You're going to say, "Hey, I saw this movie. Terrible. Don't go see it. Don't waste your Don't waste your $40 that you're going to spend on Coke and popcorn and the ticket and candy and whatever else because it's not worth it. Go see something else."
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's really really important. I mean, production budget. Even look at production budget. That's another. That's an issue right now. I was reading with Tenet, which is kind of a good bridge into one that I wanted to talk about was Tenet. It cost Warner Brothers approximately $200,000 to $400,000 every single time Tenet was delayed due to COVID. It was delayed
Jeez.
4 times. So if you look at its production budget, which according to IMDb, its production budget, let me find it. Maybe I don't have it written down.
That's fine. But I agree with you. You like most of these movies, like it's sad whenever you look at the numbers about how much they invested in producing the movie to how much it made.
Yeah.
So like take again, I think we can all agree, take Cats.
Oh
Have you seen
God.
that? Yeah. Let me tell you guys. My friend Audra, she showed me that trailer back when all these trailers were coming out. She showed me
Didn't
that
even
one,
watch it.
and she was ecstatic about that movie. She was like, "Miguel, this movie is gonna be so successful. The musical was brilliant," and I agree. The musical was phenomenal. That got like at least like over 100 million. But guess what? The movie iteration of it lost about $75 million. And honestly, I'm not surprised because it wasn't that good of a movie. The CGI was pretty bad. The music was decent, but it just wasn't the same as a musical, and it ended up losing so much money. It's one of the biggest flops of our decade. And
Yeah.
most of the movies I have here, they're the biggest flops. Like take Mortal Engines as well. That one had a budget of $83 million, and it lost. No, actually, it had a $174 million loss. Like when you think of like flops, like those are massive flops
Absolutely.
based on budget. Even though people liked them, so like take a Big Friendly Giant that lost like
Mm,
over $60 million, but people liked it. That might end up being a cult favorite later on in years. It may gain as it may be able to break even later, but as of right now, that's a major flop.
yeah.
So
Well, and you can't go by production budget and box office gross. You can't go by those two things alone, especially in the world we're living in with COVID. Because,
mhm.
take Tenet. I just looked it up. Tenet's budget, its production budget, was $205 million. Okay. It made $363 million at the worldwide box office, global
Okay.
box office. So you're thinking, okay, it did well. It surpassed its production budget.
Hmm.
They made money. Not necessarily, because Warner Brothers considers Tenet a flop because, again, you got to think it got delayed 4 times. Each time costed Warner Brothers between $200,000 and $400,000. Christopher Nolan gets 20% of that was in his contract. Chris Nolan got 20% of its earnings. I think US earnings, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. And, thinking about it in terms of COVID, it was the first big Hollywood film to hit theaters last
Hmm.
fall, you know? Since March 13th, when everything went down and the pandemic was declared and everything began, it was the first major film to hit theaters. And Tenet is a perfect example of a good film with terrible timing. And I don't think it's really fault of their own. I don't think it's not necessarily Warner Brothers' fault because they had to get the movie out there. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You can't just keep you you can only delay a film so much before I feel like it's almost not even worth it anymore.
Yeah,
You know what I
because
mean?
if you push it back further enough, like it's going to be the point. Even when you do drop it, you're
Yep.
not going to get any money. So you have to salvage as much revenue as you can. Which again, that's just the movie making business.
Yep.
Like even though it is a good movie, Christopher Nolan did a bang up job with that movie. But the way it goes, obviously it's not the highest grossing. It could have
Oh
been.
no, 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 no. And you know, I believe Warner Brothers lost close to $100 million on that movie, but it was a good movie
Mm-hmm.
that just came out at the wrong time, and it was
Yep.
not their fault. I commend them for putting it out when they did. I think Tenet did the best that it could, given the circumstances.
Yep.
You know
And
what I mean?
you wanna talk about a movie that fucked up with their timing? Let me tell you about this one. Have you seen It's a Wonderful Life?
Great movie, like the classic, like the Christmas movie.
Yeah, that flopped. Opening opening day. It was
Really?
a major flop.
I did not know. I'll have to tell Julia that she
It
adores
lost
that movie, which
it
it's a
lost
fantastic movie.
it is, and it lost, but it lost $3.8 million on its opening. And you know why? Is because it opened, I think, February. It opened on February, And by that time, like, it's a Christmas movie.
It is.
Yeah. So like, why would it open up on February? Like, it's like people are already
I
done
didn't
with
know
the
that.
holidays.
I did
Yeah.
not know that.
So whenever that movie came out, all the people that were going to the movies, they didn't want to go see a
Yeah,
Christmas
they
movie in
didn't.
February. They like, there's no point. So
Yeah.
it flopped terribly, and at that point, and like, it was not as successful at first, but then, it slowly became. I think you could probably count that not a cult classic. It could be a cult classic because it
Mm,
built
I,
it built a fan base after the fact.
I think that's just a classic.
Yeah, but like, if you think about it, like when it first opened, that was a flop, and it's insane. That was an insane fact. When I was looking this stuff up and I saw that, I was like, wait, this is like a international,
Major
like,
flop.
yeah, this is an international, like, movie right here. People love this movie, but it flopped really bad in the box office. So I mean, again, timing is the most important factor, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, some of these movie studios just they don't hit the mark with these timings,
Mm.
and it's insane that they haven't learned since then. Like, I don't even, like, what year did this movie come out? Like, it was a black and white movie.
Long time. I mean,
Yeah,
I
so
want to say the 40s or 50s, I think.
exactly. So like, the fact that they haven't learned that lesson, like, geez, man, catch up, I guess. Like, learn from your mistakes. And then we can talk about, like, so like, that was one that's like an absolute classic. But well, let me ask you about this one. Dark Phoenix. Like that's one that was a dead set gonna flop. Like, when that was announced, almost everyone knew that that wasn't gonna do well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because even though, like, Days of Future Past was their best movie of the next generation of X-Men from First Class, like, that was the highest grossing that they had in that category. But when Dark Phoenix came out, let's go over it. I mean, Disney and Marvel have already got the rights from X-Men. So
Right.
like, people are dead set saying, we're not going to go see this. I mean, Disney and Marvel already have the rights. Like, this is like, we're not going to see anything else.
They didn't care. They knew it
Yeah.
wasn't going to go past that. So
Yeah,
why do you even? Why would you even give a shit?
exactly. And also, like, it didn't it didn't capture the essence of the original X-Men, which, I mean, all
No.
of those did decently well.
Hmm.
And did you know that was originally supposed to be a two-part movie, but because it was bought out from Marvel, they said, well, I mean, even the studio was like, yeah, I mean, it's over. Like, this storyline is over, so we might as well just finish it up with this movie right here. So I mean, it's hilarious to know that some of these movie studios just have to throw these movies out, and
Yeah.
they pretty much know they're going to take a loss. And they had a $200 million budget, but they only grossed 250 million. So that was technically a
Wow.
flop because they
Yeah.
didn't they didn't
Definitely.
didn't get much going out of it. So I mean, that was just one where it was dead set that that movie was going to flop. And I think it's hilarious, even though, like, and I tried watching Dark Phoenix. It
I
just
didn't watch it.
wasn't,
I haven't seen it yet.
because the storyline was already done. You know what I mean? Because like,
Yeah.
in X-Men Last Stand, like, the Phoenix Fire was already established, and
Right.
the story has already been told. And then whenever X-Men Apocalypse came out and the Phoenix Fire was introduced again, I was just like, if we're gonna do the same thing, like, no one's gonna want to watch it. People just didn't care.
No, they didn't.
Yeah,
It was done by that point.
it was hated the day it was dropped that it was gonna be filmed.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's one of them that's so It's a Wonderful Life caught me by surprise, but Dark Phoenix did not catch me by
Yeah.
surprise.
Yeah.
I knew what was coming.
Absolutely. Well, and there's another one. You have to look at box office flops. You also have to look at critical flops too. You know,
Like, reviews.
not necessarily reviews, but critical flop in that its reception hurts its box office earnings. So look at it's me. I have to, because it's who I am. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Mm-hmm.
You look at John Carpenter's original vision for Halloween. He wanted to do an anthology series. He wanted to do the first film, and then every subsequent Halloween film was going to be a different story about Halloween. It was going to be a different story about the holiday, not the franchise as we know it now with Michael Myers. It was going to be a different story every film. 1982, Halloween 1 and 2 had both happened. Michael Myers was presumably dead. Dr. Loomis was presumably dead. Jamie Lee Curtis's character had moved on. Tommy Lee Wallace, John Carpenter, Deborah Hill wrote Halloween 3. It was its own separate story. They were going to go the anthology route. And it bombed at the box office. And not because people weren't excited to go see it. People were dying to go see it because of how successful the first two were. But again, it goes back to word of mouth and reviews. It bombed at the box office because once the word got out that it wasn't the Halloween film that everybody was wanting, it wasn't a Michael Myers Halloween film, people were done. They were like, I'm not going to see that shit. Like, why? Why would I go see it? That's not what I want to see. And of course now, like you said about A Wonderful Life, it's become a cult classic. People have, it's earned people's respect. They've come to realize that, okay, this is actually a pretty decent movie. It was just, again, it was bad timing. Like you said, it was, if they would have just released this film under the title Season of the Witch and not Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, it would have been a successful film. I really believe that. But, you know, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill were reluctant to do a third film. They didn't want to. It was the first and only one without Michael, and that pissed people off. They didn't like it. They were not about it. It had a $2.5 million budget. It grossed $14 million in the US. So, yeah, it made its money back. It did well. But I think it did well because people were expecting something different than they got.
Yeah. Okay.
And when it was said and done, they were like, why did I just pay money for that? You know what I mean? That wasn't what I wanted. Why did I pay money to go do that? So, you know, I don't know. It's just, that's kind of an interesting thought too, is, you know, you can have box office flops, but you can also have box office flops that are triggered or influenced by their reception. And
so like what you're referring to is like, so we have box office flops and then we have audience flops. You know what I mean?
Flops.
Yeah. So like it makes sense. And I can't think of other movies right now that have had that moment, but I know what you mean. Like a lot of people I'm sure a lot of people want to go see it because of Michael, but since they weren't there, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to be pissed.
Well, and they kind of tricked people in that way, and they were probably smart. That's why it made $14 million at the box office.
That's slick.
It is pretty slick, I'm not going to lie. You know, people were expecting the third Halloween with Michael Myers and the continuation of that story, and they got a movie that, you know, there was a New York Times critic. I have no idea what his name was, but, you know, he said it was anti-children, it was anti-capitalism, it was anti-this, it was anti-that, it was anti-TV and whatever. Its reception was very poor. And I think it could have done better at the box office had it not been for its poor reception. You know? But then again, you take a movie like Tenet, and of course, Tenet's a product of the world we're living in right now with COVID and the pandemic, and people are scared to go out their front door, which I think it's getting better. I really do. But I think we have a long way to go. And, you know, movies can flop for a number of different reasons, whether it's a critical flop, whether it's it's fault in the script and the story, whether it's a fault in its marketing. There are a ton of different reasons that they can flop. So, but, you know, nonetheless, a ton of movies that have flopped, we still enjoy them. We still love them. We still watch them.
Those are called cult classics.
They are cult classics.
Pretty much.
And that's what they are. Now, with the exception of like Fantastic Four, that can go I don't care. I genuinely don't care if I ever watch Green Lantern or that middle version of Fantastic Four ever again.
Yeah,
I really don't.
That one lost about 100 million too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's also because I don't know if it's true. I don't know if Marvel had already bought the rights back during that time. I don't think they did
For what?
for Fantastic Four when that came out.
I don't believe so. I think Fox
Yeah,
still
exactly.
owns the rights for that. I think it's been pretty recently that Marvel regained the rights for Fantastic Four.
Yeah. And I think that was the final nail in the coffin for that too.
Yeah, probably.
So I mean, it sucks that we had to watch those movies, but it's also a blessing because if they had not flopped, they probably would have stayed with the studios. But because they did, it's back home, man.
Yeah, it's home. It's home, and we get to enjoy it, whenever that comes out, and I'm very excited to see what they do with that story. But guys, that is going to do it for us for episode 11 of Let's Talk Movies. We want to thank you for listening. We want to know, what are your favorite flop movies, your favorite box office flops? If you're watching on YouTube, let us know in the comments. Let us know what your favorite flops are. Please, if you would, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We have been uploading some more content for those two platforms as well. Our handle is @WeTalkTheMovies. Our updates are there. We want to talk to you. We want to hear from you. We want to interact with you. As we said in episode 10, we wanted this to be a community of people to talk about movies. That is our main goal. That's what we want. And we're going to continue to do that. Remember, episodes are going to drop starting next week at 8 p.m. on Mondays instead of 11 a.m. This is the final episode that will drop at 11 a.m. So be sure to check that out. We'll have a ton of additional content coming for you. Next week, we are talking Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2. I've been stoked to talk about Halloween, and we are finally going to do it. So we hope everything is good in your world, and we will talk to you soon. Peace out.
Peace out, guys.